Joining me now from Washington, D.C. is CBS News security consultant Frank Cilluffo. He directs the Center for Cyber and Homeland Security for George Washington University. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. We appreciate that. Listening to Comey's explanation, do you agree with him and still think that he handled the email situation properly in terms we're talking about with Hillary Clinton just 11 days before the presidential election?
You know, he really was caught between a rock and a hard place. And whereas hindsight is always 20/20, and I think he clearly could have done things a little differently, I think his intentions were pure. And ironically, by trying to stay out of the political fray or be apolitical from an investigatory standpoint, he may have unintentionally stepped into one of the largest political theaters we've seen in a long time. So, I mean, I really do think he was damned if you do, damned if you don't. He didn't know what information could have been in those emails. But so I think his intentions were pure, but obviously it had some unintended consequences and implications far beyond the investigation itself.
Well, that's Hillary Clinton just yesterday, came out and said that she really believes that if the election had been held a few days beforehand of the email scandal coming out and being talked about, that she wouldn't be president. Do you think there would have made a difference? It does seem like he was between, as you said, a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disprove double negatives, but the reality is I don't know the concrete answer to that. But whether it was a few days or a few months, I mean, the information was out, and I think he was just pursuing what the FBI director's role is. I mean, if you look at today in a marathon hearing, the fact that he's getting hit from both the right and the left tells me he's actually probably doing his job pretty well.
Having to walk that fine line.
Yeah.
What else do you think stood out from today's hearing? I mean, they're covering just a wide range of topics now.
You know, it is very far-reaching. I think the biggest takeaway for me was while there was a lot of new color commentary and some very important items brought up, and the mood music was very strong, and I think Comey himself seemed quite confident in his responses and his testimony. But there wasn't a whole lot of new news, specifically with respect to the ongoing investigation. I think one big takeaway was Comey made clear that he did see Russia as the primary threat to the United States. He also made clear that they're still engaged in political influence, not only overseas, but also in the United States. And I think another interesting takeaway was, whereas he didn't go as far as Mike Pompeo did in terms of the role that WikiLeaks may play in all this, he was pretty strong. I think he referred to it as intelligence porn. So some pretty strong statements there. Then finally, the role of encryption, or the fact that some of the bad actors law enforcement is interested in pursuing, the so-called going dark conundrum. I think there was some news there, and I've got to watch it a little more carefully when I get back, but I do think that you're starting to see some of those questions surface from a policy standpoint as well.
Well, we are talking to you as this is still going on right now. So, of course, there are headlines being made as we're speaking. Just a few moments before you and I went to air, Senator Leahy asked the FBI Director Comey whether citizenship is a good judge of whether a person is a potential terrorist. The director said no. Some of these issues, it seems like, could be brought up now and will be headlines later today and into tomorrow for sure.
Absolutely. And we need the communities to be able to police the communities, because you're never going to arrest your way out of this problem. I mean, it was ultimately the Italian community that helped take down Cosa Nostra and the mafia, so I think he's spot on there.
So today as well, we want to talk about the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee said in his opening statements that, quote, a cloud of doubt hangs over the FBI's objectivity. Do you feel that way? It seems like you don't, with saying a few moments ago that he was really between a rock and a hard place. And what can he do to remove that cloud of doubt now, if that is in fact how the majority of people feel after hearing this?
Well, the best way to remove clouds is sunlight, so I think some transparency here is a good thing, and I think hearings like today as long as they may be, are critical to our democratic discourse. So I think that goes away. I mean, a certain percentage on both sides of the political spectrum, no matter what he says, are going to disagree with what he says. But I do think it's important that he convey to the American people why they do what they do, and also some of the challenges in doing that job right. It's not an easy job. It's genuinely a difficult position to be in. But I think the best solution is more transparency, be as open as you can be without compromising any national security secrets, and move from there. So at the end of the day, even if there isn't a cloud, if there's a perception of a cloud, that's damaging to that community. So he needs to take advantage of the opportunities when he can to speak directly to the American people.
Before we let you go, I do want to ask what you think we can expect from the other upcoming hearings on the Russia probe, especially with Sally Yates set to testify on Monday.
I expect some fireworks in the future. I think you're going to get some additional details and specificity than as acting Attorney General, what she may have shared with others in the executive office of the president. So I do expect we'll get a little more detail. I just hope that it's nothing that actually undermines the investigations themselves.
Frank Cilluffo, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being with us.